Hello and welcome to the Mr. Well channel. Here's to wishing you guys a happy 2022. Me personally, New Year's Day, I actually entered into a trivia contest with a first place prize of up to $2,000, and lo and behold, I came in first place. So it was an excellent way to start my New Year's off with the Harry Potter, kind of centric mentality, starting off at like 4 in the morning watching the HBO special, and then capping off the night winning some cold hard cash with HP trivia. But today's video, I decided to do another ranking or another favorite tier structure type based video where we're going to be discussing my favorite chapters per book. Alright guys, we have Sorcerer's Stone here, and I know everyone's going to have their own opinions of what's the best chapter and what's the best this, that, and the other. That's kind of why I wanted to make my videos, is to have these discussions about what everyone else's favorite is, because I'm really curious to compare notes and to see if we have similar takes on what our favorite things about Harry Potter is. So without further ado, for Sorcerer's Stone, my favorite chapter is chapter 12, The Mirror of Erised. Obviously this is I think most of my picks are emotionally tied to Harry and kind of his journey with his loss and his struggle. This chapter, The Mirror of Erised, is Harry's first true emotional recognition of what he's going on with his loss, specifically regarding the loss of his parents. The Potter smiled and waved at Harry, and he stared hungrily back at them. His hands pressed flat against the glass as though he was hoping to fall right through it and reach them. He had a powerful kind of ache inside him, half joy, half terrible sadness. I really get goosebumps every single time I read this chapter. Again, it's very well done in the movie with Dan Radcliffe, and even the following scene with Richard Harris coming in and consoling Harry and giving arguably the best line of the first book.
It does not do to dwell on dreams, Harry, and forget to live.
So Mirror of Erised is very important and favorite chapter of mine. A runner-up, I guess I should have done this first, but a runner-up chapter for my favorite being in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone would be the first chapter, The Boy Who Lived. This is, a great way for J.K. Rowling, masterfully sets up this entire wizarding world and this otherworldly place, and we start with the most basic and most boring, most hateful almost character in Mr. Dursley and his kind of mundane day-to-day events, and we kind of get to get a peel behind the onion from his eyes. So that would be my honorable mention for best chapter of the first book, the first chapter. Moving on to book 2, I will go ahead and get my honorable mention out of the way first. My honorable mention for book 2 would be A Very Secret Diary. This is our first, first look at young Tom Riddle in all of the series, with Harry being introduced to this random diary that he's found, and he gets to literally dive into it and get some information revealed, most notably Hagrid's reason for being expelled in Hagrid's 3rd year, but also that luring pool of Voldemort on top of, spoiler alert, the diary being a Horcrux. But regarding my favorite chapter of Chamber of Secrets, it will be chapter 3, The Burrow. I love the Burrow. I love the Burrow nearly as much as I love Hogwarts, and I love the descriptions that are used and how Harry feels regarding, being at home. I love that line, and I'm so glad it's in the movie.
It's not much, but it's home.
I think it's brilliant.
It just makes you feel welcome, and that's you get a very welcoming sense at the Burrow, at the Weasley's house. It's a bit small, said Ron quickly. Not like the room you had with the Muggles. And I'm right underneath the ghoul in the attic. He's always banging on the pipes, groaning. But Harry, grinning wildly, said, "This is the best house I've ever been in." Ron's ears went pink. This is just a complete new territory for Harry to experience the idea of home and family and comfort. You know, that's what the Burrow means to Harry, and that's what it means to us as the readers. Moving on to book 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, this is where the story starts to get a little darker, and we get a little bit more backstory regarding events of the past, you know, that lead up to Harry's story. My honorable mention, and this is kind of hard to even put this here, basically all the chapters to do with the Shrieking Shack at the end, or near the end of the first climax. This movie really has 2 climaxes, or this book and movie has 2 climaxes, but all the chapters for the Shrieking Shack, I think there's like 4 of them, but the one that sticks out obviously is when it's all revealed. The Servant of Lord Voldemort would be my honorable mention for favorite chapter. Again, just all the reveals and twists that go on into that chapter with Lupin and Peter Pettigrew and Sirius, and the swap of the Secret Keeper, you know, all of that. I vaguely do remember first time reading this, being blown away at how, you know, incredible J.K. Rowling's able to plant this many, you know, subverted expectations into, again, like 3 or 4 chapters, just pow, 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 pow. It's very hard not to put any of those chapters at my favorite, but my favorite is the Marauder's Map, which I believe is chapter 10. Yes, chapter 10. This is when Harry is feeling pretty low, and the twins end up, you know, bestowing this magical map. That one right there. Little creepy, you know, whenever you really start looking into it, and just the magnitude of what this map does with you know, people's privacy and whatnot, but just regardless, it's still pretty cool. But my favorite line is right at the end, where they just heard all of this information, and and Ron and Hermione look under the table. Harry? Ron and Hermione's face appeared under the table. They were both staring at him, lost for words. And this bleeds into the next chapter, so it doesn't technically count. It leads into the Firebolt, but where Harry's really starting to question who he is and what his, you know, predicament is moving forward with his past and the death of his parents, and what he presumes to be at the present moment, you know, this escape killer Sirius Black, and he kind of understands why Draco was taunting him, or why Mr. Weasley was telling him or urging him not to go after him. So I remember reading this, and each time I do, just picturing myself in Harry's mind as a 13-year-old getting this information for the first time. So that is my favorite chapter for Prisoner of Azkaban. Moving on to Goblet of Fire, I guess I'll go ahead and get my honorable mention out of the way first. I think it is a tragic sin that this was not in the movie, that Mike Newell just decided to go straight from Voldemort in the Riddle House to Hermione waking up Harry in a candle already at the Burrow. But the chapter, Back to the Burrow, that it's fun to see the Dursleys' ineptitude and all their interactions with the magical world. And it always, something goes wrong. First book, Hagrid and the tail. The second one, Dobby and the pudding and the car escaping. The third one, Aunt Marge. And this one is no different, with the Weasleys wrecking shop in their living room, absolutely destroying the fireplace, along with setting Dudley's tongue to be 6 foot long. So I cannot believe that wasn't in the movies. It would have been a great, you know, comedic introduction. But my favorite chapter happens to be all the way at the end, right at the second to last chapter, The Parting of the Ways. It's a very powerful and vulnerable, I think that's the key word, vulnerable point in the series for Harry to kind of be back, to be, you know, kind of out of it and weakened, honestly, and to be comforted by Dumbledore, on top of having to explain to Dumbledore what happened in order for Dumbledore to, you know, get on the ball and start moving against Voldemort. For a fleeting instant, Harry thought he saw a gleam of something like triumph in Dumbledore's eyes. But next second, Harry was sure he had imagined it. For when Dumbledore had returned to his seat behind the desk, he looked as as old and wary as Harry had ever seen him. Obviously, that line is critical, absolutely critical, moving forward in Deathly Hallows, more specifically in King's Cross. Basically, at this point, Dumbledore knew that Harry was not going to die. And I'm not going to get into the whole what Dumbledore should have told Harry and this and that and the other. There's a long explanation for it that I don't want to get into right now, but I always like rereading this book and getting to that line just to remind the readers that Dumbledore knows how to play some 4D chess. Moving on to Book 5, The Order of the Phoenix. This one is hard to pick out one chapter. Let me just go ahead and state for the record. Any chapter with Umbridge as the title figure of the chapter is incredible. I love the character Umbridge. And let me just take this opportunity right now to give a big shout out to my guy Ryan, who went on national TV and declared that Umbridge was indeed his favorite character.
Ryan.
Same, Helen.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good.
Which character do you connect with?
My favorite character is Professor Dolores Umbridge.
Oh.
Yes, she's a powerful woman
Yes.
Who gets what she wants.
A classic Slytherin move, if I may say.
Which has been met with a lot of criticism. But, guys, everyone has a favorite character. And he has a special connection to that character in the ways or in the means of the actress Imelda Staunton. He actually met her. She kissed him on the cheek when he gave her flowers for a play or production or something. So that would obviously have a huge effect on him liking Dolores Umbridge as his favorite character. But regardless, it's his favorite character. It's not your favorite character or your favorite character or your favorite. It's his favorite character. So I know that he's been met with a lot of criticism about it, but I just wanted to give him a super shout out. Umbridge is a great character. She's the reason I love getting to Order of the Phoenix, because of what she brings to the table. She is crazy. She's bad. She's evil. But she's a great character. So I just want everyone to get off my boy Ryan and give him some props. So anyways, that's like an honorable mention. All the Umbridge chapters, great. The opening of chapter 30, which is Grop. I don't like the chapter Grop because this is the Giants. They ultimately really don't have a payoff. And I know that they show up at the end, but they really don't have a payoff. But the opening of that chapter, chapter 30, where it just goes on and on about the twins had just dipped out in the most epic fashion ever. And it just goes on and on and on about how the students are really rebelling against Umbridge at that point with like the bubblehead charms and the stink bombs, and I think kicking or locking up Mrs. Norris and all that kind of crazy stuff. And Peeves, I love Peeves in this chapter. It is so good of how he is just in his element of causing as much mayhem as possible. So that's another honorable mention. Another honorable mention for this book is Dumbledore's Army. I love the chapter art of it with Dobby, and it has like, I think 30 stacked up hats and scarves and mittens that Hermione had made, for Spew, for her little pet peeve project of Spew. So that would be my honorable mentions. I know that's like 3 of them. You shouldn't have 3 honorable mentions, but it's really hard because Order of the Phoenix is a really good book. But my number 1 chapter for Order of the Phoenix, I think would not come as a surprise to anyone, is at the end, is with Dumbledore, The Lost Prophecy. I think there's a pattern, again, developing here with me, where it's the emotional core of the story that I tend to be drawn to, and a lot of that is reflected into the Dumbledore-Harry relationship. I cared about you too much, said Dumbledore simply. I cared more for your happiness than you knowing the truth, more for your peace of mind than my plan, more for your life than the lives might be lost if the plan failed. In other words, I acted exactly as Voldemort expects we fools to act. These words play a huge importance into the Dumbledore-Harry relationship as to why he withholds information from Harry, even moving forward. I think a couple pages before that, he says, I'm going to tell you everything, which is not true. But he does it for a reason, because he cares too much about Harry. I know people have debated and criticized Dumbledore, the character, especially if you just watch the movies. That's like the first thing you think of is the whole pig for slaughter that Snape accuses Dumbledore of. Dumbledore knew that Harry was going to survive based on that gleam in his eye, but he could not tell Harry because the sacrifice that Harry did had to be a pure form of sacrifice. Harry couldn't have like a blueprint to get there. So keep that in mind for all you Dumbledore critics out there. But anyways, this chapter is amazing. I remember when I first read it in 2003 and just going, we are about to get some answers. We are about to level up in our road to the end of the Harry Potter saga. And it starts literally right here with this chapter. And for book 6, The Half-Blood Prince, my honorable mention, we'll get to that first. My honorable mention is Sectum Sempra. Now there is a lot that goes on in this chapter. Mainly, the big one, well, there's two big ones. Harry almost kills Draco, which I don't really feel too bad about because Draco was about to use an unforgivable curse on Harry, so I really don't feel bad about what Harry did. It kind of served Draco right, truth be honest. He kind of had it coming. But on top of that, Ginny and Harry have their first kiss, and it's a really awesome scene in the books.
Close your eyes.
I can stay hidden up here too if you like.
In the Gryffindor common room, after Gryffindor wins the Quidditch Cup, they run to each other, and it's a really good written scene. I think it ends the chapter nicely. This is also, it's looking back, reading this book, it is so obvious that Snape is the Half-Blood Prince. He found the book in a potion class that used to be Snape's, but at this moment when Snape is confronting Harry, and it's like coming to his mind, the Half-Blood Prince, it's every single time the Half-Blood Prince's book is mentioned, Snape's name is like literally two sentences away. So it's just reading back and knowing that Snape is the Half-Blood Prince, it's so obvious. And I can't believe that it shocked me, the first time reading this, that it was Snape. But, so that was my honorable mention. My favorite chapter, guys, when I flipped the page and saw that title the first time reading it back in, 2005, my heart was going 90 to nothing. When I saw Horcruxes, again, like the last book with the Lost Prophecy, I knew that we were about to level up in our path to the end for Harry Potter. And this did not disappoint. You get so much information off of Slughorn's memory, into where Dumbledore finally basically sets in motion the rest of this book and the rest of the next book of Horcrux hunting and what it all means, and this, that, and the other. So many questions are answered, and so many are introduced on top of the idea thrown out there about Harry being a Horcrux. But he understood at last what Dumbledore had been trying to tell him. It was, he thought, the difference between being dragged into the arena to face a battle to the death and walking into the arena with your head held high. Some people, perhaps, would say that there was little to choose between the two ways. But Dumbledore knew, and so do I, thought Harry, with a rush of fierce pride, and so did my parents, that there was all the difference in the world. If I hadn't read those words before, I wouldn't have thought that there was a difference, or that there could be a difference. I just would have thought, I'm going to an arena and I'm probably going to die. But there's a difference. It's the mindset, it's the attitude, it's the outlook that you have to have. And that's what Dumbledore is teaching Harry in this moment. That yes, Voldemort is acting on this prophecy that was made about you two. You're going to have to face him because he will not stop. You could move to Switzerland, you could move to Antarctica, but Voldemort's not going to stop. So I need to get you to focus.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Idiot sandwich what?
An idiot sandwich.
To get Harry in that mindset of conquering, evil and how to go about doing it. And now we get to book 7, The Deathly Hallows. Whew, it is so hard. It is so hard, and I cannot wait to hear other people's thoughts because, again, the thing with rankings and favorites with Harry Potter, it could just be anything. And to pick a favorite, I mean, I challenge you right now, go pick a favorite. It's really hard. My honorable mentions. Yeesh. Godric's Hollow, when Harry and Hermione are there standing over Lily and James's grave, and I tear up almost every single time whenever you get to go into Harry's mind. You know, bones now surely, or dust, for Harry neither knowing or caring, you know, his parents not knowing or caring that his son stood so near, alive because of their sacrifice, but close to wishing that he was sleeping under the snow. It's beautiful, beautiful writing. I haven't experienced, sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional. I haven't experienced a death that close to me, but the way J.K. Rowling uses those words in describing a feeling like that is just, that's what good writing does. It allows you to feel what you haven't felt. And so that's just an honorable mention. My favorite chapter. It's The Prince's Tale, it's The Forest Again, and King Cross. It's bam, bam, bam. But ultimately, it's The Prince's Tale. I mean, honestly, getting to this chapter and the reveals that were going to be in store for us was truly just amazing. I'm just go ahead and get this line out of the way. Snape raised his eyebrows, and his tone was sardonic as he asked, "Are you intending to let him kill you?" "Certainly not. You must kill my soul, Dumbledore. Mine. You alone know whether it'll harm your soul to help an old man avoid pain and humiliation," said Dumbledore. "I ask this one great favor of you, Severus." The revelation of reading that sentence for the first time was truly shocking. But reading that for the first time and all of the reveals in that chapter, a la Harry being a Horcrux and having to die, was very shocking, I guess is the best way to put it, which I'm sure it is everyone's favorite chapter of the whole series. I mean, honestly, it is the crux. It is the holiest of holy, sacred, most chapter, because it is the reveal chapter of all the books, save for 1 or 2 reveals that happens in King's Cross, The Flaw in the Plan. That concludes my chapter ranking for favorite chapters per book. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sure that we have some similarities, but I'm also sure that we have a lot that we disagree on. I'd be very interested to know, what are your guys' favorite chapters? Leave them in the comment section down below. Let me know how your year's starting off. It's 2022, guys. We have a lot to look forward to as we set out together. Fantastic Beasts 3, The Crimes, or no, not The Crimes. Sorry. Fantastic Beasts 3, The Secrets of Dumbledore is only 3 months away. I expect we'll be getting another trailer soon. I think Warner Brothers had just released like an image of Jude Law standing in a corridor or standing in a classroom. So I have a feeling another trailer's on the way soon. The reunion is out. Again, it was very awesome to watch, and I'm sure I'm going to be watching it several more times. I know that there's a conspiracy out there that Rupert Grint was not present as the 3 of them sitting there. Something about a shadow that his leg was casting in the still frame photo, and that there was a secret camera film crew in Canada at the time that Rupert Grint was there and why everyone else was filming. I don't know. It's a fun conspiracy theory to think about. To me, it doesn't really take away from the special or from the reunion. I mean, it kind of does, I guess, considering the term reunion. But let me know what you guys think. Have y'all heard about this conspiracy theory? What do you guys think? Let me know how your year's starting off. And again, let me know what your guys' favorite chapter are per book. I'd be really interested to hear. Thank you guys for clicking. Be sure to subscribe. If you don't mind, we will be very happy to have you on board. Again, I'm just looking to build a community of Harry Potter nerds like me and fans to establish some type of community where we can all get together and talk about The Boy Who Lived. Thanks, and have a great day.